presentation.
I'd like to thank the GGMC for putting this on.
And we have a pleasure here to have Professor Narine deliver our first presentation.
I'd like to thank the GGMC for putting this on and for allowing the IAST to present. If you would put that, please, on a slideshow, that'd be great. What I'm presenting today isn't new. It's used very widely elsewhere, but it hasn't been used in Guyana. Yes, thank you very much. So I'm presenting on coconut activated carbon for gold recovery as an alternative to using mercury. Go ahead, please. So just very briefly, everybody here knows this, but I didn't, and there may actually be some people who don't. Our history of gold in Guyana, of course, stretches far back in our antiquity. El Dorado, of course, being a legend that's long been associated with us. So around the mid-1800s, for the first time, we discovered gold-bearing quartz in the Cuyuni River. And around the 1900s, we produced a significant amount of gold for that period. In 1895, you are actually considered one of the 10 most prolific gold-bearing regions. And most of our gold back then was mined by port knockers with a very low recovery rate. In 1993, Omai gold mines began production. And by 2001, the country recorded its largest recovery to date, about 456,000 ounces. And this was both Omai as well as artisanal small mines. In 2005, as you know, Omai halted production. Interestingly, in 2012, just with artisanal small mining, we produced, well, 403,000 ounces of gold. 438. 438 was produced, so it's been revised. In 2013, the numbers are still not out as yet. So in 2001, revenues were approximately 123 million US, and in 2012, approximately 672 million US. This is a significant industry for this country, and therefore it underscores the importance that the minister and the GGMC has placed on this conference. For not clearly, it is a very large foreign exchange earner for our economy, but as you all very well know, mining also comes at some costs, environmentally, and if it's not done safely, it can come at health costs as well. And so whilst we cannot afford to ignore the significant role gold mining plays in our development, conferences like these are very important for us to address our activities in a responsible fashion. If you look at land use for mining, there's an interesting story that is told as well. Mining has not only been responsible for economic activity, but it's also opened up significantly our interior. One of the main reasons for population of our interior regions has been the economic activity afforded by mining. And as you know, 60 to 65% of our people live on the coast, whilst the vast opportunities that exist in our interior has remained untapped. Mining is opening those new frontiers. And so even as we contemplate new technologies and how to manage mining, I think it's very important from a social perspective to also begin to articulate land use planning and how we intend to sustainably build communities in the hinterland of Guyana. So there are significantly more impacts than just foreign exchange earnings that mining offers. So let's get to the heart of the matter. And I'm talking today about mercury. In 2005, when I joined the Institute of Applied Science and Technology, there was an ongoing project funded by the World Wildlife Fund to look at mercury accumulation in fish and humans in Arakaka, Port Kaituma, and Matthews Ridge. I came in and joined that project, and I can tell you that at that time, we were able to measure finite amounts of mercury bioaccumulated in many of the miners whose hair follicles we tested. Mercury, as you all know, is not the kind of element that dissipates in the environment. It actually bioaccumulates. So therefore, any mercury exposure into our food chain accumulates. It's a cumulative process which leads to significant persistence and serious health damages. Most of the mining in 2012, if not all actually, was done using mercury. And this is one variation of how it's done. Many of the miners that we have actually operate on a much smaller scale than this. But of course, it involves stripping the land, getting the particulate size down small enough, washing the gold particles, and then amalgamating it with mercury in order to coagulate or coalesce the gold, and then heating the mercury off. Now, the GGMC has for years and years advocated the use of retorts to boil off mercury. And even at the IAST, we have shown that if you use retorts, you can significantly reduce the exposure. In reality, what happens on the ground is quite different, as the miners in the room will know. Some people will take the time to use a retort, but many do not. And it's a very difficult thing to police, given the fact that we are existing in a geographical region which is so spread out. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this slide. This is a GGMC slide, data from GGMC, and I think many of you know this. What is important to look at, though, is that we're looking at significant numbers of claims that are small-scale mining. If you look at, in 2011, we had about 11,000 claims in small-scale mining versus about 5,000 in medium-scale mining. So this means that most of our mining activities are scattered. They're done by artisanal miners who quite possibly are existing with low capital investments. Why is mercury such a problem? Mercury is banned, of course, in most countries, but it's still used in Guyana and much of the developing world. It seems that there's an intent for Guyana to ban mercury in 2020. If nearly 100% of our gold mining is done using mercury now, that ban obviously will significantly and devastatingly affect our gold mining operations. The environmental impact, however, is significant, and one can understand why mercury should be discontinued. Inorganic mercury provides acute toxicity to high levels over short periods of time. It's converted to methyl mercury by bacteria, and of course methyl mercury persists in the food chain, bioaccumulates in the body, and even very small amounts of methyl mercury are toxic to human beings. It disrupts the nervous system, it damages brain functions, DNA and chromosomes, triggers allergic reactions. One of the ways to know if you're dealing with mercury poisoning is you generally tend to develop rashes, you become very tired, you have headaches, and of course, mercury also affects the reproductive system significantly because it affects DNA. So it's a serious, serious element, and for those miners in the room who use mercury every day, I can't stress enough the need to be exceedingly careful in the use of it. So, what are the alternatives? There are a number of alternatives. The next speaker will talk to you about gravity concentrators. One of the challenges with gravity concentrators is generally they have been too large. This gentleman will be talking to you about smaller scale ones, which perhaps may lend themselves much better to the use by smaller miners. The challenge, of course, is logistical one. If you're going to use a large gravity concentrator, one needs to get your ore from a wide geographical region to a central processing station. And then there are obviously going to be issues of recoveries and accounting. So innovative solutions need to be looked at. There are a variety of alternative recovery techniques. All of them have associated recoveries for, and this is important, the size of gold particles that you encounter in the environment. Now, much of the alluvial mining done in Guyana is done on a saprolitic rock. Much of the gold particles that we're dealing with are exceedingly fine because they've been eroded over time. And so it's important when one chooses a particular type of technology that it's chosen with the size of the gold in mind. And as you can see, we have various percentages of recovery for various sizes of particles. I will be focusing in on cyanidation today, and it's very important to note that cyanidation is not as affected by particle size as most of the other technologies. If done right, it can consistently recover 99% of gold regardless of the fineness of your particles. Okay. So gravity techniques have generally not been suitable or economical for recovering gold from most deposits, but that technology has really improved within the past half a decade. And so I think it's worth relooking at. Gold, of course, is precious to us because it resists chemical attack. Gold is very inert as a metal, and that is one of the reasons why it holds its value. But because of that inert nature, of course, gold is very resistant to chemical attack when you try to extract it. So there are only a few chemicals that will actually allow you to extract gold. It's important. You can't make an omelette without breaking eggs. The majority of chemicals used in gold extraction are corrosive, they're toxic, and they're hazardous. So therefore, when you look at your menu of options, it's important to look at options which mitigate impact, because we know of no methods which has no impact. What we're proposing is a method, I don't want to blind anyone. I don't